Hello and welcome to the Comic Cave. I'm Ramsey, aka Captain Away, and today we're looking at the 2024 series Robin Lives from DC Comics. I wasn't really entirely serious about having you guys vote on it, but you voted for it anyway, so here we are. As we saw in my last video, Jason Todd, the second Robin, proved unpopular enough with fans that he was killed off in the landmark 1988 story, A Death in the Family. Perhaps the most unprecedented part of the story was the vote held to determine Robin's fate. The chance for readers to call one of two phone numbers to cast their vote for or against him surviving a brutal attack by the Joker. In order to keep spoilers in check, no one was even made aware of the vote until the issue where Robin faced his fate, Batman issue number 427. The end of the issue held the ad where readers could vote, and they could only do so during the few weeks between issues 427 and 428 coming out. Because there was such a tight schedule on this, in order to keep any delays from occurring, two versions of issue 428 were created so that DC could release whatever version matched the outcome of the vote. And because the vote for Robin to die won out, that version of issue 428 is what came out. And for over 30 years, it was the only official version printed. But in 2024, writer J.M. DeMatteis and artist Rick Leonardi would tell the story of what would have happened if the vote had gone the other way and Jason had lived. To help facilitate this, DC released a fake facsimile reprint of issue 428, or faux simile, that fully restored and colored the alternate pages. That version of 428 is the exact same as the original up until the page where Batman finds Jason's body, where Batman's face flushes with surprise as he finds a pulse, instead of simply confirming Jason's death like in the original. Then, instead of the shot of Batman walking away from the wreckage with a dead Robin in his arms, we see him holding his sidekick up, gleefully declaring him alive before rushing him off to a hospital. The next change in the issue is when Bruce is answering the authorities' questions about the warehouse. The reference to removing Jason's uniform is no longer there since that was already dealt with when he rushed him off to the hospital, and now we have just the singular victim in Sheila Haywood. Next, when Batman returns home, he brings only Sheila's body with him, of course, and has a funeral for just her. The line about Jason's life being too short to create many ripples is removed. Then, there was originally a scene at the funeral of Alfred offering to get in touch with Nightwing to finish the search for Joker and Bruce declining. And instead, we get one of Bruce visiting a comatose Jason in the hospital, with Dick showing up to offer assistance himself. Bruce still refuses. The rest of the issue plays out the same, up to Joker arriving as the new Iranian ambassador. But while issue 428 normally leads into issue 429 and all the events we saw play out in my previous video, this version of 428 instead leads directly into our story for today, the Elseworlds Robin Lives story. So let's see just what becomes of the dynamic duo had Jason survived, and take this away. The comic opens on the Joker falling dead from a bullet in the head. Hey, that rhymes. Joker falls dead, he was shot in the head. Was it Batman or someone else in the fam? Okay, so I should never be a rapper, noted. But that is the question of the day, as a news reporter tells us, since Batman was seen fighting the Joker right before this. And Bats is looking like he regrets what happened pretty hard. But Jason, as Robin, sitting on a rooftop in the rain, looks pretty upset as well. But this is the end of our story, and to get here, we need to flash back to the alternate timeline of issue 429. In that story, Batman went to visit the Joker at the Iranian embassy the night before Joker's UN speech. But here, Joker will never get to that speech. The Ayatollah's men instead inform Joker that the Ayatollah has changed his mind, and no longer wants Joker as his ambassador. Disappointed, but not completely surprised, Joker disables the men with a paralyzing gas. Before he can kill them though, Batman busts in and stops him. Joker flees out the window with help of a jetpack and then climbs aboard this absolutely ridiculous Joker boat. But just as in the original story, Batman's not willing to let Joker go this time, and follows him until he can crash his own Batboat into the Joker boat, and knock the clown villain into the water. Bats then just stands there watching while Joker starts to drown, but once again, just as before, Superman was nearby and Big Blue dives into the water to rescue Joker. So Joker is returned to Arkham, as always, and Batman goes to have a conversation with the asylum's current director, a Dr. Benjamin Stoner? No, not Stone. Stoner. I don't know. Stoner believes that there is hope for rehabilitation for all of Batman's villains, even the Joker, though right now, Batman has his doubts. Still, he lets the matter drop, and we skip ahead a few months in time, and we see Jason recovered from his time in the hospital and back at home in Wayne Manor, but being his typical unpleasant self. He really hasn't processed his trauma well, and he was already a bit of an ass to begin with, as we saw in the previous video. Alfred suggests to Bruce that they seek professional help for Jason, but Batman isn't a fan of that plan. They do have Dick stop by to spend some time with Jason, hanging out as just brothers. It's a little weird to see this vague retcon here of the two being close. I don't recall them ever spending much time together, but the narration is correct that Dick is the only other person in the world who has the same experience of being Bruce's adopted son and Batman's sidekick to share with Jason. But while hanging out with his sort of bro is helpful, it's still not enough. So Bruce invites in our narrator, Dr. Saraswati Dev, a highly talented psychiatrist. Jason, master of eavesdropping, listens into their conversation and rages at the idea of being sent away to an institute, which I feel like is something I maybe need to explain for the younger viewers out there. Remember, this is still basically set in the 80s, and there used to be super heavy stigma placed on people seeing a psychiatrist. Anyone seeking any sort of help for their mental health was seen as crazy and mentally irreparably broken in some way. And if you wanted to continue to be part of society, you avoided anyone knowing or finding out that you ever spoke to a psychologist or psychiatrist, which often led to people avoiding seeking help in the first place. Jason's so angry at being called crazy, in fact, that he dresses up as Robin so he can sneak out and go fight crime to prove that he's still up to the task of being Batman's sidekick. He finds the Scarecrow in the middle of a crime at the Gotham Museum with hostages. Jason does come prepared with an oxygen mask to keep from breathing the Scarecrow gas, but the Scarecrow manages to inject his bare skin with some of the toxin, sending Jason through a nightmare recurrence of the Joker nearly beating him to death. Only this time, his mother saves him by shooting Joker right in the forehead, instead of how last time she was just smoking a cigarette while her flesh and blood was beaten to death right in front of her. She embraces Jason, but then her skin melts away until all that remains is a skeleton, and she invites him to join her in death. Batman shows up then to rescue his ward, stomping the Scarecrow mercilessly, until the police have to literally pull him off the villain. The cops tell Batman that he should instead attend to the kid, and for the first time Batman feels that Jason really seems like a little kid as he lies there, curled up on the floor to hide from his nightmares. The event convinces Batman that Robin needs extra care, so Robin begins living with Dr. Dev so she can more directly treat him, though Jason continues to act like he doesn't want to be there. Dr. Dev can also tell that she's not getting the full story from Jason, so Bruce decides that, to help Jason out the most, he needs to reveal that he is Batman to the Doctor. Dr. Dev asks why Batman would invite a child into the dangerous world of nighttime vigilantism to begin with, and Batman doesn't have an answer for her. With that weighing on his mind though, he goes to visit Nightwing, helping him get patched up after Nightwing got a little overconfident fighting a villain named Brutal. Interestingly enough, Brutal wouldn't actually exist for another full decade after the Death of the Family story was published, but, you know, alternate timelines. Bruce asks Dick if he regrets being pulled into the superhero life, and Dick starts to say that there are days he wished he had a normal childhood. But Batman leaves before he can finish his full answer. The narration tells us that the answer was less upsetting to Bruce than the realization that, in all the time since adopting Grayson, he'd never once asked the question before. Then, feeling this means he needs to give Jason the chance to live a normal life, he attempts to forbid Jason from being Robin again, but Jason doesn't want to hear it. Defeated, Bruce turns to Dr. Dev and decides to take her to his parents' grave, as he realizes that he created Batman not out of a need for vengeance, but as a means to heal. And we're not talking about just him healing himself. He needed to heal both himself and his city. And taking Dick and Jason in after the deaths of their parents were similarly meant as attempts to help them heal. And I kind of love this bit. It's very similar to this conversation in the Young Justice cartoon.
I shouldn't be surprised, since you indoctrinated Robin into crime fighting at the ripe old age of 9.
Robin needed to help bring the men who murdered his family to justice.
So he could turn out like you?
So that he wouldn't.
Bruce also talks to Alfred about his tendency to raise child soldiers, and Alfred points out that Batman needed the Robins because he needed the family. Because he's not just the loner that he likes to think he is. Whatever Alfred's endpoint is, though, we'll never know, because they're interrupted by a phone call from Dr. Dev to say that Jason has run away. Most likely to go after the Joker, because the Joker, of course, has escaped Arkham Asylum once again. Over the course of these same months that Bruce and Dr. Dev have been trying to help Jason, Dr. Stoner had been working closely with the Joker in Arkham. But while Joker had attempted to pretend he was getting better, Stoner wasn't really buying it, at least not at first. But after more work and new medications, Stoner believes that Joker has finally had a breakthrough. But when he foolishly lets his guard down and opens the safety glass between them to give Joker a consoling hug, it turns out that this isn't the Joker at all. It's the female Clayface, Sandra Fuller. Without anyone knowing how or even when, the Joker and Sandra had switched places, and Joker disguised himself as an orderly to hitch a ride out of the asylum. When Jason heard about this, he of course suited up and headed out, wanting again to prove himself as able to handle being Robin. So Batman heads out, hoping to either find Jason or at worst, find Joker first. He ends up running across Nightwing instead, who takes the opportunity to finish explaining that, while he does sometimes wish for a normal life, he wouldn't trade his current life for anything in the world. Unfortunately, it is Jason that finds Joker first, tracking him down to an abandoned movie theater where he'd been hiding out while watching old comedy films and torturing other victims by dressing them up as Batman and Robin. Jason confronts the Joker, but freezes up once they're face to face, giving Joker the opportunity to knock him out. Joker then drugs Jason and dresses him up to turn him into his own little sidekick, Jokey, the boy lackey. With Jokey at his side, Joker goes and attacks Dr. Stoner in his home, and has Jason beat the Doctor to death. But Jason stops himself midway, realizing what Joker has done to him. Joker gets angry at the kid and considers killing him for disobeying, but decides he's not worth the effort and just leaves. Dr. Stoner's fate is left a little uncertain. They never confirm if he's dead from Jason's attack, though earlier in the story, a line from the narration about Dr. Stoner still being with us is the only hint we get that he might actually be dead here. Nightwing and Batman find the same abandoned theater Jason had found earlier, but by then, it's empty, with only a dead bat pinned to the wall as a gruesome message for Batman. Nightwing reaches for the bat, but Bruce stops him, supposedly to keep the bat from infecting him with anything, but really it was to actually inject Nightwing with some knockout chemical so that Bruce can go face the Joker by himself. Batman knows exactly where to go because the bat is a special type of Miagani bat, a reference to the Native American people that lived in pre-colonial Gotham. So Batman heads to the Miagani caves where that particular bat can be found. And sure enough, there's Joker with another of his crazy plans. This time, he's infected the bats in the cave with a psychoactive agent that he's going to release on Gotham because he can control the bats using an electronic frequency that he's discovered. He's willing to spare Gotham, though, if Batman takes a special version of the psychoactive agent to make himself go insane. Batman starts reaching for the vial when a gun goes off, and Joker falls down. Batman turns to see that Jason is there with the gun. But Jason had aimed for center mass, and Joker gets up, saying that he was obviously wearing bulletproof clothing, and that Robin is too gutless to go for the head. Should have gone for the head. Provoked by Joker's words, Robin fires again before Batman can stop him, and we see Joker shed a tear and whisper the words, "At last." While the exact meaning is deliberately unclear, it's very possible this is a callback to Dr. Stoner's belief that Joker was a regular person trapped by the insanity of the Joker's personality. With the Joker taken out, that regular person can finally rest. So we're back to where the comic opened, with Joker falling dead, and for real dead this time. Batman is initially furious that Robin would take the Joker's life, but Jason vanishes from the cave before Batman can reach him. So Batman calls the cops to come and collect the Joker's body and seal off the cave to prevent the infection from getting out. Batman and Nightwing find Jason, and rather than judging him, they choose to support him, realizing the trauma he has gone through. Bruce decides to step down as Batman, figuring that everything he believed in died in that cave with the Joker, and wanting to find other ways to help Gotham like he had said to Dr. Dev earlier. Dick Grayson then takes up the mantle of the Bat, including moving into Wayne Manor and living up the billionaire playboy life like Bruce Wayne. They return Jason to Dr. Dev's institute so that he can recover, which he seems to finally do. He grows up and continues his education, getting degrees in sociology, psychology, and psychiatry. Bruce falls in love with Dr. Dev and marries her, which, honestly, that's a little weird. She was your son's psychologist. That feels pretty iffy ethically, but yeah, okay. Jason turns his degrees into a job at Arkham Asylum so that he can attempt to help those damaged like he was. But really, it just seems to be a spot for him to do that painting himself up as a clown meme, so he can be a Joker to Dick Grayson's Batman. And that, believe it or not, is where the comic ends, so that is where we get to the breakdown. It's interesting that this story pretends to be what would follow if the fans had voted for Jason to live, but it's absolutely not a story that could have happened over the following next few years. And not just because Brutal didn't exist until '98. This story feels filled with references to other Batman stories, whether intentional or not. I think probably a lot of it's intentional though. I already mentioned the similarity to that Young Justice episode, but Joker making Jason into Jokey also feels like what Joker did to the Tim Drake Robin in the Batman Beyond movie. That was some messed up stuff. Joker's plan to use the bats is similar to how Batman controlled them in Year 1. Their confrontation at the end recalls their confrontation at the end of The Man Who Laughs, and the argument Joker makes in Death of the Family from Snyder's New 52 run. Batman falling for Dr. Dev is reminiscent of him falling for Chandra Kinsolving, the physical therapist who was helping him after his back was broken by Bane during Nightfall. Dick taking the mantle of the Bat is, of course, similar to the battle for the Cowl, and Joker's death is similar to the opening of Grant Morrison's run on Batman, with Joker seeming to be shot to death at the start of that series. Perhaps most importantly, Jason using a gun to kill the Joker, and then becoming the Joker himself, is similar to his path in the mainstream universe of becoming the Red Hood, an identity the Joker once used. It's also a doubling down of an idea only barely hinted at in A Death in the Family, that Batman was always wrong about Jason. He was wrong to make him Robin in the first place, he was wrong to then push him away, he was wrong to leave him alone with the Joker nearby, and he was wrong with every assumption he makes about Jason in this series, down to assuming that he'd managed to overcome his trauma. But for however fascinating this story might be for incorporating all these elements, I'm not entirely sure that it works. The narration style is a bit off-putting, with narration boxes annoyingly heavily separated mid-sentence by panel after panel of dialogue. The story itself can also be hard to follow, with very unspecific time jumps happening sometimes between issues, pages, or even just panels. And the extended time jump at the end, giving a quick "where are they now" style recap for all the characters, just feels like a forced means of concluding this universe. So, in the end, I'll be giving this a series recommendation level of low. While I don't feel it's a bad story, it definitely feels like a somewhat pointless what if, especially considering we have a generally more interesting continuation of Jason's story already in the mainstream universe. The collected edition gets 1. Joker Masthead, which we're putting as a pretty good thing. Joker Things as Good Things 2 videos in a row. I must be slipping. The collection contains all 4 issues of the Robin Lives series, as well as all 4 issues of the Death in the Family arc, with issue 428 swapped out with the Robin Lives variant. There's also a few bonus alternate covers, and this collection also contains the same scans of the voting ad page and the letters column that included Denny O'Neil talking about the final vote tally that we got in the Death in the Family collection. All in all, it's a pretty solid collection, especially seeing as they could have just given us the 4 issues of the actual series and left it at that. Thanks everybody for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. We got more Jason Todd coming our way, and then it'll probably be time to get back to the X-Men for a bit. So if you did enjoy this video, or you're excited about any of that, then please be sure to hit the like and subscribe and all that good stuff so you can help the channel out. And so you can help yourself to be sure to be here next time, and I hope to see you then, right here, in the Comic Cave.